You are listening to the Sevenfold Judgments. Volume 1, Things Which Must Be Hereafter. Written by K.D. Grimm. This is a speculative Christian thriller series inspired by biblical prophecy. Chapter 10. The Pope. 1 week and 4 days before the event. Rome, Italy. Daniel 11:36-37. NLT. The king will do as he pleases, exalting himself and claiming to be greater than every god, even blaspheming the God of gods. He will succeed, but only until the time of wrath is completed. For what has been determined will surely take place. He will have no respect for the gods of his ancestors, or for the God loved by women, or for any other god. For he will boast that he is greater than them all. As she settled into the uncomfortable settee, Ailyn tried to bolster her courage by reminding herself of the honor it was to offer her life for Hellel's cause. She stole a few discreet glances at her beloved from her position beside him, admiring the aura of gallantry that seemed to radiate from him. She clung to the belief that she would hold a cherished place among his wives in paradise. The fact that Hellel had confided in her about his own virginity reassured her, a sign, she believed, that he understood her devotion. These thoughts provided comfort as she contemplated the sordid task ahead. She lost herself in daydreams of life with her prince in an idyllic paradise, until the tall doors burst open and slammed against the doorstops. The Pope and another robed figure marched in. Hellel made a subtle gesture, and Ailyn rose swiftly in response. Jude stood silently behind them, hovering like a shadow. Smiling, Hellel stepped around the mirrored coffee table and took a purposeful step forward to address the Pope, who rudely thrust an email-like document at him. "What is the meaning of this?" the Pope bellowed. Ailyn flinched, startled by the strength of the Pope's voice, especially given his age. He shook the paper in Hellel's face, visibly agitated. "What concerns you, dear Pope?" Hellel replied, his tone amused. The Pope growled in frustration. "Mr. Koros informed me that you've sent unauthorized invitations for a rally to be held at St. Peter's Square in just a little over 2 weeks." "Yes, Your Eminence," Hellel replied, his words laced with sarcasm rather than respect. "Mr. and I are planning a rally here at the Vatican in just 16 days. I've invited the most influential billionaires from the Club of Rome. Many have already confirmed. They wouldn't dare miss it." A glint of amusement sparkled in his eyes. The Pope's face turned a dangerous shade of red. "This is out of the question. Leave immediately. Cardinal Smith, escort these people out." His attention shifted to Ailyn. Instantly, his expression changed, and his gaze bored into her. Ailyn felt a shiver of unease crawl up her spine. "You? How?" the Pope stammered, visibly shaken. Hellel stepped closer to Ailyn, gently guiding her around the mirrored coffee table. One hand hovered near her back, the other gesturing toward the Pope. Ailyn hesitated, then stepped forward, offering her prettiest smile. "Forgive me, esteemed Pope," Hellel said, voice honeyed. "I realize I've failed to introduce you to my assistant, Heidi." Ailyn blinked. Heidi? She turned her gaze to the Pope, whose face had gone pale. He looked as if he might faint. "Oh, excuse me," Hellel continued, his voice laced with feigned contrition. Her name is Ailyn. I got confused because she looks so much like someone you knew when you were younger, don't you think? How did you find out? The Pope stammered. I never told anyone. The Pope stared at Hillel, stunned, his expression twisted with confusion and something like fear. Ailyn noticed the way his hand trembled. Whatever Hillel had just said had rattled him deeply. Finally, the Pope muttered, Yes, she does look just like someone I used to know. Cardinal Smith glanced at the Pope, his concern evident. The pontiff cleared his throat. Cardinal Smith, might I have a moment alone? Hillel seized the moment. Flashing a charming smile at the assistant, he said, Would you be so kind as to fetch a cup of tea for the pontiff? We have a few private matters to discuss. The assistant hesitated, then nodded. He seemed momentarily entranced by Hillel's gaze and looked flustered as he exited. Hillel turned to Azmi. Stand guard by the door. Ensure the pontiff doesn't receive that tea for the next 30 minutes. Azmi nodded stiffly, his jaw tight. Ailyn watched him go with a strange pang of regret. His disapproval of what was happening to her had been almost palpable, and despite her loyalty to Hillel, she felt a flicker of yearning for someone to intervene. She didn't want him to leave. As the door clicked shut, silence fell. The Pope stared at Ailyn, stunned, as if he were losing a battle he didn't remember starting. He dropped into a chair and turned to Hillel. How did you find out? Hillel's tone turned bright and childlike. Mister told me. Who is? Mister, Hillel repeated, smiling sweetly. He lives in my head. He helps me. The Pope recoiled slightly. What are you talking about? Mister told me about Heidi. She was alone in the world, like my Ailyn. He said Heidi was a sweet temptress in love with you, that you had a relationship, and when she told you she was pregnant, you even considered leaving the ministry. The Pope looked away, face drawn. Hillel tapped his temple. You rushed to her when she threatened to end her life. But then came the promotion, didn't it? And just like that, she became inconvenient. Hillel bent down until they were eye to eye, gripping the arms of the chair with theatrical intensity. His smile was pure courtroom drama, like one of those passionate prosecutors Ailyn had seen in old black and white films, pressing for the final damning admission. You orchestrated her death as a suicide, cold, calculated, but effective. No one ever suspected. He straightened, pacing slowly, voice smooth and cutting. You kept her farewell note as insurance and used it at just the right time. How very cruel. Then abruptly he clapped his hands twice. The Pope flinched. Mister helps me with a lot of things. Hillel pointed to Jude, who had remained quietly behind the table. At Hillel's cue, Jude stepped forward and held up his bandaged finger. He proved his loyalty to me with a nail file under his own fingernail. Jude will never say a word to anyone. He really nailed that loyalty test, Hillel said, then chuckled. He winked at Jude. Jude laughed dutifully, and Hillel, convinced it was genuine, smiled, Pleased with his own wit, he turned to Ailyn, and our dear Ailyn has graciously offered to commit suicide after your visit. Hillel made air quotes with a grin. He twirled his finger in front of her, signaling her to turn. Ailyn didn't understand until Jude gently but firmly turned her around. She flushed, remembering Fariha's teasing how she used to say Ailyn's backside was her best feature, and she ought to be proud of it. But this wasn't friendly. This was humiliating. In the reflection of the mirrored coffee table, she caught a glimpse of herself. Her posture, her expression, she looked scared, foolish. Her ridiculous dream of being Hillel's wife began to dissolve. "Don't you think she looks like Heidi?" Hillel asked. The Pope didn't answer. He was staring at Ailyn, eyes clouded with lust. Hillel spoke again, tone bright. "She's an innocent Vestal virgin, a devoted follower, no risk of disease. So please, Your Eminence, treat her gently." Then, with Ailyn still turned away, Hillel made a lewd spanking gesture behind her back. The Pope's gaze didn't waver. Hillel stepped closer, voice low and persuasive. "I share your desires, Pope Severin. I want a global economy with clean water, education, and shelter. I can give the world that, but I need your support, financially, spiritually, and politically." He smiled. "You will be the world's spiritual leader." Finally, the Pope tore his eyes away. He cleared his throat. "Yes, yes," he said, voice shaky. "We may be able to come to an agreement." This has been a reading from the Sevenfold Judgments by K. D. Grimm, presented by Flowers Over the Wall Ministries.